Instead of having, it'll be like an additional period being added onto our schedule.
Right, so instead of having homeroom.
Right, instead of having homeroom,
Or an announcement period or
Eagle time or something
Correct.
like that.
Correct.
and the students who are not in the intervention period will be doing other activities
Correct.
in the building.
So for example, they might need homework help with something. They have a project in social studies they need assistance with, or an accelerated assignment. They're doing some kind of acceleration for something, that kind of thing.
Right, and as we discussed before, the plan is one thing. The difficult part is always enacting it and ensuring that the students that are in there getting help are actually getting the targeted help that they need. And that's very difficult from, I'm sure, an administrator's perspective to ensure that you're connecting deficiency to actual help first thing in the morning.
What we don't want that time to become is a time where they're just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, staring at the wall, not doing something productive. We want that time to be productive for them, productive for the students, to make them successful where they're deficient.
So to the board, do you have any questions or comments on this?
No, I will say, so I appreciate the fact that we're moving forward with the math. I think, so as you pointed out, the board has spent a great bit of time dealing with support issues, I think, for the school, and making sure that we're setting the right conditions for the school, whether that be giving folks opportunities with dual enrollment, or whether that be making sure that folks have a suitable dress code, if that makes sense, or a modern dress code might be the better way to say it. I think the important thing that the board has gotten to, though, this year has been to go back and say, hey, look, we really do have to have a plan with math. And I would say that I appreciate the support that Mr. Perry and Mr. Dominguez have given, and the attention that they're giving to this issue, because I really get the impression that there's a recognition of the problem, and so there is a plan in place to move forward and solve the problem, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think getting back to the discussion we had just a couple minutes ago about wanting to see the standardized tests, we know that you're looking at those and you're using that data to chart next year. We just wanted to publicly talk about it so the community understands that there is a plan, we are looking at outcomes, and the status quo is recognized as not being acceptable. So I appreciate your efforts on that. So aside from the focused math lab and intervention time, you mentioned a couple other efforts.
Yes, sir. Well, we're in the process of hiring 2 new math teachers. Hopefully that'll reduce those class sizes. And, of course, as we know, the smaller the class size, the more one-on-one individual attention we might be able to receive. And then the continuing professional development that we're providing for our teachers. Like they're going to get 2 more days of the professional development on that 21st century, on the new standards that are coming out at the beginning of school, or excuse me, when the 2 days, a Tuesday and Wednesday after everybody's gone. Those are the 2 days that they're going to come back in and get that training. So we're going to continue with that professional development throughout the next school year as well.
Okay, and so the teachers that you expect to bring on, assuming they're experienced math teachers coming from within DODEA?
We interview people from inside DODEA, outside DODEA.
So the hiring decision has not been made yet?
We've interviewed several people, but the process, we don't have a position. I can't give you a name right now because we don't have a name yet. We don't have anyone selected, I guess, for that position, for those positions.
All right, and that'll be the question from the community: who's coming in?
Correct.
And what classes are they going to teach? So you'll have a challenge in the early fall as you decide who's teaching what class and where the students are going.
Yes, sir.
That would be tough.
Well, and we are making a change in what people are teaching.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are moving some people around, moving some staff members around, and getting people to where we think they're going to be the most successful with students.
Okay, thank you. To the members of the board, are there any other questions or comments?
I've got to jump in. This is near and dear to my heart for many reasons. So who are going to be the people that are going to be leading the intervention sessions? Will it be the same teachers that are teaching math?
Sometimes other teachers are going to be involved in that as well. I got 400 students, so obviously if 400 students are going to have it, each one of them is going to be assigned to a different classroom. So they're going to be, teachers throughout the building that are going to be responsible for giving those interventions.
So the question I have, if a kid is in a class with a math teacher, not learning it from the teacher in the classroom, getting maybe after-school tutoring from the same teacher, not learning it, are they going to get intervention by the same teacher that they're not learning that math from? So you're not really solving the problem if that ends up being the case for a student.
We won't do that.
No.
So if we're not having success in the classroom, it makes no sense to keep not having success with the same teacher. So
obviously,
we're adding teachers, so that's going to change. That's going to change the number of people we can have. So if it's not successful with one teacher, maybe we try another.
And that leads me to the second question I have. So we're adding teachers. Are we losing teachers in the math department?
There's some moving around of staff members. We're gonna have, I believe, by the time we're done, 6 math teachers in the department. Currently, we have 4. Whether or not one staff member is leaving another staff member, I can't get into specifics about that right now, but.
So the question I have then, let me get straight to the chase. Will the current math teachers we have still be teaching math next year?
Some of them will be, yes.
Okay. And then what standards are you holding those teachers accountable that, not going into details, but there are some issues with some of those teachers. I hear it almost weekly from people that have had frustrations with the learning that's going on in those classrooms.
Well, with all of our teachers, we want to hold them to a high accountability and a high standard of learning. We meet with our teachers. We go into the classrooms. We observe the classroom instruction. If there's a deficiency, we address it. And that's consistent throughout the building. That's not just a math thing. We expect all of our teachers to respond to feedback and take the feedback and continue to learn and grow. So, I would say that that's something that, as an administrator, that's one of my roles, is to be able to go into those rooms and go into those buildings, not just math, but English, social studies, every other class, and observe that instruction, have those conversations with those teachers, and address any deficiencies that may exist.
I appreciate that response, and I think the thing that we get from parents, and this is, I think, universal throughout the educational system, is that obviously, like any employee of any enterprise in the world, they are in their best behavior when they're being watched and observed. And so parents are getting feedback from the students. Students have a vested interest maybe in portraying things worse than they are, but parents are seeing outcomes that are less than what they would expect to see or hope to see. I know you, as an experienced administrator, you know this, but I think that's the inherent friction here, is that students will say, well, of course, when the principal was in there, the teacher was teaching.
Sure. And all I can tell you is that we will continue to work with our teachers to improve them, to improve where they are, and to improve where we are as a school. We're always looking to improve and always looking for that continuous improvement in our building, and we'll continue to work on that. And as I said, not just in math classrooms, but throughout the entire building, we'll continue to work on it.
And I should say, as a caveat, this is not meant to disparage any teachers. This is just describing the information that's coming to the board, and we know there's a lot of hard work going on.
Am I a math major? No, ma'am, I'm not.
So really, I would say you're a layman when it comes to math. I just don't know how any administrator who doesn't have a very strong background in math could possibly be any position to observe a pre-calculus class or a calculus class and make a determination that the big standards are being taught or they're not being taught. And I would say you're certainly not in a position to do that. How bad do you think you want to? I would ask that the board ask
And we have had them in. So they've been there. They come from my office to observe, and they're they feed back pedagogical conversations. But there's other things as an educator, as a trained educator, that Mr. Dominguez and all of our administrators are trained to do. They can come in and see whether or not there's an anticipatory set, whether or not we're teaching to the standard. Whether or not they know the numbers is not the issue. It's how they're delivering to. They can look at the grades. And quite honestly, they can talk to the students too, and the students talk to them as well. But I do have a specialist that comes here and works with Mr. Perry. And we've made great strides. That's why we're making the changes we're making. I think we're losing sight of the fact that nothing was done until this year.
Right.
And now something's being done.
Yes.
So we are moving forward. I mean, we're going from 4 to 6 math teachers. We're not making that kind of commitment to any other department in the school except for mathematics. We are probably going to change some folks out of the math department and move some other folks in. So there won't be the same players. And we're changing what some of those teachers teach so that we can possibly better meet the needs of the students. So I would tell you that we're doing what we need to do to make a difference for the students. So I expect that won't happen overnight. We could clear out the entire math department and move them all somewhere else and get 6 new people in and have the same issues. I mean, you could. So it's, I don't know that would be the case, but we are doing something and we're working towards something. So let's continue to support Mr. Perry and Mr. Dominguez in this regard.
And I will say for the community here, this is a breath of fresh air from what we've heard previous years. And personally, I want to thank you for the work that's already taken place, and for listening to us, because there are still some real concerns, but I definitely think there has been improvement.
Yeah, I would tell you, I personally met with Mr. Perry last week and discussed who was teaching math and what they were teaching in math. And those conversations are still ongoing. There's not too many weeks that go by where I don't. So, that's my job. And when kids fail, I fail. So I take that professionally and very personally.
So and I apologize, just one follow-on question. Do we do student evals at the high school level, student evaluations of teachers?
We do not.
Okay. Is that something that would be helpful, that would be possible to do?
It wouldn't. I mean, I have bargaining agency presidents in the back of the room that would probably tell me that I can't do that. And it's easy to give an evaluation of something that you know nothing about. I mean, students are not math teachers, but they know who a good teacher is, and they'll tell you because that teacher shows compassion and cares. It's not. Sometimes it's about a grade, and sometimes it's not. It's about a relationship that you establish with a student, and hopefully that results in learning, which results in a good grade. But learning is what we're really concerned with. So we understand that there are students that are getting good grades in mathematics that aren't learning, which is a different problem than the one that you're really talking about.
Right. We had that last year, so.
Yeah. So that's concerning to us, and we're addressing that as well as we can.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
I know that wasn't pleasant. I appreciate your patience.
You can stay up there.
That's why we're doing it in the hot room. So we have to.
So one last question from me for math. So with the college and career readiness standard kind of lockstep instruction, is there room for intervention at the middle school and grade school level?
There is. How we would do intervention classes there, I'm not certain. The math teachers at the middle school, this is their first year with the college and career ready math standards. So I know we talked in previous meetings about what students can take when. So I think next year we are able to offer Algebra 1 at 8th grade, right? So, but next year, if a student comes in having already taken Algebra 1, they may take geometry, correct? And the college and career ready standard process is rigorous. It's much different than what we would know to be typical math instruction. But the students that are having difficulty, do we have a seminar period or a study hall period or a tutoring period that we offer as part of your schedule, Dr. Washington?
We don't have a seminar. What we have is that our sixth grade, all our sixth grade students this year, will influence math lab that is separate than their regular math class. So we'll be getting 2 math classes this year. The 7th and 8th grade are having their math lab or their math time, extra math time, doing their study skills. And for the last 3 years, 7th and 8th grade they have a study skills built in. The 7th grade team has already laid out a plan of how they're going to have those students integrated into that math lab study skill. And we'll be looking at students in a 3-tier when the terror comes back. They will be catching that population of students, and they will be able to stay in that study skill until they reach proficiency in whatever sub-skill they're having trouble with. And the 8th grade will end up having 2 math lab study times, and those students are able to be fluid. They can go in any 8th grade class where they're having difficulties and work with that teacher. But Mr. Curley and Mrs. Garrison take their students, they do a double take. They take the students that they have, and then they will assign them to the extra math study skills that they need to. The other piece is that they will take the students that are in that 3rd quartile from the terminal, and they will place them here. So students will be able to get at least 2 math classes, 48-minute classes throughout the building. And then we can build in the tutorial. Instead of making it come and do their homework, it now turns into a mandatory math setting after school. So we're trying to capture as many children as we can. Some children will have 3 math opportunities, others will have 2. So that's what we've laid out, they've laid out per grade level.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. And just to clarify, so the college and career readiness standards are intended to kind of eliminate gaps. Well, part of the intent is to eliminate gaps, academic gaps, for all students. So if there's a student having problems and there's a focused intervention in that second hour, are they continuing to progress in their normal class too and trying to catch up on those things they don't know, or are they stopping and making sure they have the basic concept?
And I want to make sure I got it correct. But the answer, I believe, is going to be yes, because the modules that come with college and career ready standards, everybody has to get into those. Then our lab, math lab, we're using a totally different series from LIMCO that will give us additional data to assessment, and where they're having trouble, those teachers can talk to one another and try to provide support. So within a regular math class, there is a tier intervention. It's I can't even think of RTI. Tell me what RTI stands for.
Response to?
Response guide. So within a math class, for instance, 62 what do they think they have? But in that regular math class, they can have 4 tiers within a class. And so they capture that teacher, there should be capturing those children that are struggling, whether they're doing it through the module or doing it through whatever practice they have. So we consider ourselves capturing every child either through math lab for intervention or an accelerated type.
So to answer the real question, if a child continues to fall behind, which I think is where this was going, then there are other interventions that need to take place to include, they could be considered for learning disability, or there could be some other handicapping condition that's, it might not be that they're quite honestly ready for this. So we have to look at other things too. Hopefully when we prop them up, they catch traction and they move forward. That's what you're saying, yes? Okay.
Good. In terms of math, are there any other questions or comments from the board? All right, and hearing none, the next item is the graduating class plan, I was hoping you might have gross numbers of those going to college, the military, undecided. I don't-
Well, we just had, last week, we had signing at the high school, the commitment signing. I think we had about 80% of our students who had committed to who committed to a college or a university. That would include.
Can you hear?
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
80% of the,
80.
How many students are in your graduating class?
The graduating class has 70.
7.
So 80% of them have committed to college. That would include 3 students who are going to academies, several students who have 4-year full ride scholarships to various universities in the area and across the country. We had about 8 to 10 students who had also made military commitments. So some of those students are making military commitments and also, going to college. So they're doing like National Guard, Reserve. At the same time, they're going to school. So we're very proud of those numbers. I mean,
How much scholarship money was handed out at your
it's almost $2 million. in
$2
scholarship.
million worth of scholarship money at
That's astounding. And if, for the 20% that isn't committed, is it your sense that most of them have a plan?
Yeah, every one of the students, before they leave, they meet with our guidance counselor, and she discusses with them about their plan and what their post-high school plans are, whether that be military, college, or getting a job out there. So I feel pretty confident that every one of them is going to be involved in one form or another in being a productive citizen is next year
so
when they leave us, when they graduate.
But we have 80%, and we have another 10% that are going to the military, right? Because
Yeah, about 10.
You had 7 to 10.
Something like that. I know the number for college is about 80%.
So about 10% are undecided.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Those are great numbers. And, obviously we're always worried about the 10% maybe that are still out there, but in terms of most schools, I think they would be thrilled to have these sorts of numbers.
Everybody I talk to from outside the gate, from inside the gate, it's pretty surprising. The numbers that we have is amazing to some people outside. Last week we visited Doss High School in Louisville to look at some things there and some programs they had there, and the administration there was amazed at what we do here as far as our graduation rate, things of that nature. To kind of piggyback on that, because I know there are some things that we're looking at to bring as far as working on getting kids ready for jobs in future in the years to come. So hopefully we can bring that in here as well and get those programs going and in conjunction with Garrison here.
Thank you, and good job this year, and to Mr. Perry as well.
I'd say three students going to a service academy.
We have 3 students
out of
going to a service
77.
academy.
That's a remarkable.
We have one going to West Point, one going to the Coast Guard Academy, and one going to the Merchant Marine.
Yeah, you'd have several counties together that wouldn't have
Yeah,
those kind of numbers.
it's remarkable. Thank you, Mr.
Correct.
Thank you. So, to the members of the board, are there any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the technology update plan. So Mr. Gerstner, a couple parents came to us with concerns about, and I'm going to say this wrong, but I think language lab shared computers, that perhaps they're running slow or there are issues with them timing out. And I will admit I don't know kind of when the computers were updated or last, but there's a perception that maybe it's time, at least for some groups of technology.
Yeah, and I think when a student comes home and the computer didn't work today, it's you wonder why. I called my secretary half an hour before the meeting and asked her to do something. I can't do anything because our computers are down. And it didn't have anything to do with how old the technology is. It has to do with the system that we're on. And it's kind of frustrating for us in the educational field in Dodea because we're part of the Department of Defense. And we have to follow the rules of DISA And so our computers do run more slowly than perhaps your computer runs at home. I'm not going to deny it. Our computers are up to date, and the ones that aren't are going to be cycled out, and new ones are cycled in. I don't know, Laura or Angelique, do you know how many new ones you're getting in? Yeah. And they recycle those every 3 years, I think, is the way it works. So it's really not the computers, it's really the networking system that we're on. And for lack of a better reason, some days it works better than others. And I wish that I had a better answer for the parent concerns about how slowly things run. I will tell you a quick story. Even our logins for our students is complicated, and it times out. And I've gone at West Point. This came up from the board at West Point when I was there, and I argued, why does a 6-year-old need a 16-character login, and why does it time out after 15 minutes? And the professor at the academy, the military academy, can let theirs go on for an hour. And I had our IT people from headquarters talk to the IT people at the Pentagon, and we did not get any relief from that. The military academy did, but not us. So our teachers are remarkable in that they quickly run around and type in something or put in the password to get it going. But it's terribly frustrating when you're asking a 6-year-old to remember a 16-character password, and knowing that they get distracted and things time out. And I wish I had a better answer for you other than it's somebody else's fault. But in this case, almost all the time when there's difficulties with technology, it's the fact that the network is not running correctly. And it's incredibly frustrating. I was in Texas over the weekend, and it was the same thing. I logged on to the secure server, and I could not do the things I needed to do. And they said, oh, well, we're doing maintenance. Now, unfortunately, the job doesn't stop on the weekends for some of us, and so I just wish that I had a better answer, folks. I'm so sorry, but we do recycle our technology, and we're putting brand new interactive boards at Kingsolver. They're pretty remarkable. No more do you see those things that are on the stands. No more will you see the things that are coming out like this. They work really well. They'll work really well as long as the network is up. So that's the best answer I can give you for technology. It's not much of a technology plan. It's really a technology excuse.
And I guess a concern would be that curriculum has kind of moved into the 21st century, but the technology that's going to support it isn't there yet. And it puts teachers potentially at a disadvantage.
I wouldn't sell our school system based on our technology. I would sell our school system based on other things, but I wouldn't sell it based on technology. We do a lot with the little resources that we have technology on some days.
Members of the board, do you have any questions, comments on this?
Is there I guess, is there a solution? Where would the solution have to come from?
Well, if you go to the Pentagon and see the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, and you talk to him to talk to DISA to get us off of the Department of Defense and let us have our own system, that would be our preference, is if we were independent from the Department of Defense. I tried several years ago, and it didn't work. But that's the only solution. We're in the Department of Defense just like the United States Army is, and they tell me what we have to use.
So, is the issue then just the timeout, or is the issue also bandwidth?
It could be yes. It could on both accounts. It may be. It could be yes to any number of reasons.